Kalala Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai Bahashem Racha Kudash, and double honors to the elders of GMS Ruel, blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel Barakatah. Today's lesson, the Iranians warn of a regional war. And here I have an article that says Iran brands European armies terrorists and warns of regional war. The video article goes on to say Iran's supreme leader warned Sunday that any attack by the United States would spark a regional war in the Mid-East. And all that is happening in the Mid-East is leading to that inevitable Third World War prophecy. As soon as that CHIP of Revelation 13:16 through 18 is implemented upon society, that inevitable Third World War cometh quickly. And when it comes to the Iranians, aka the Persians, they are known upon the scriptures as the Carmanians, and it is prophesied that they will come in great power. Let's go over to that scripture of 2 Esdras 15 and 30. Second Esdras 15 and 30. Also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. And if anybody knows anything about wild boars, they are fierce and strong. That's the mentality of these Iranians when they shall come out in great power. That shall be their mentality. The Carmanians represents those Iranian wild boars of Iran. And the Iranians of today are the Persians. And it is prophesied that they shall come with great power. And when it comes to Iran, they should not be underestimated, because they have an enormous arsenal at their disposal. They have very sophisticated and accurate theater ballistic missiles with a range of 1,200 miles, and tactical ballistic missiles, the TBMs. They also possess cruise missiles, drones, and unmanned systems. But no longer can the smaller nations be bullied, because they have officially leveled the playing field. But what's happening in Iran right now, this is prophecy, and it's going to lead to that Third World War. And it is prophesied that the Carmanians, aka the Iranians, will come out with great power. They now possess nuclear capability and other sorts of advanced weaponry. But it shall be the least of the flock that shall draw out the Americans to that final Third World War. All that is happening in the Mid-East remains to be seen on how it goes down. This scripture of 2 Esdras 15 and 30 has said that the Carmanians shall rage in wrath, and with great power shall they come. And tensions are extremely high. But if Iran was to get attacked or invaded by the West, that will automatically draw out the Russians to war. Remember that Russia is providing unprecedented level of military aid and technical support to Iran. So an attack on Iran will draw out the Russians to war. And we are no longer living in the time of peace, but of war. The Lord himself is a man of war. Exodus 15 and 3. Also the time approaches when the allies of America shall betray them. But as soon as they implement that CHIP of Revelation 13 and 16, that Third World War cometh quickly. And as they say, no holds barred. One thing to understand when it comes to Iran is that they have a strategic alliance with Russia. So an attack on Iran will draw the Russians to war. But it shall be the small hatters that will draw the Americans to that final showdown of World War III. It shall be the small hatters that shall draw the Americans to war. We are no longer in the time of peace, but of war. But let's go over to that scripture of Jeremiah 49 and 20, because it speaks of the least of the flock. that shall draw them out. Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Esau, Edom refers to the wicked of the earth according to the scripture of Malachi 1:4. And Teman is known for their wisdom and represents Germany today. The Temanites represents the so-called Germans because they are the smartest out of the nation of Edom. But not even the wisdom of Teman can help the nation of Edom on what's to come. Yahushua HaMashiach will take control of this earth, and he will establish his righteous kingdom upon this earth. But he also shall remove the wicked from power, because two existing kingdoms cannot exist side by side. There will always be conflict. The scripture has said, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. This represents the small hatters today. They shall be the ones to draw out the American armies of Babylon the Great to that final third world war of utter destruction. And it shall involve those arrows of mass destruction. Babylon the Great shall be totally destroyed from coast to coast. So in other words, the least of the flock shall draw them out to that inevitable third world war. And when it comes to the small hatters in history, they were responsible for World War I and II. And they shall be responsible for World War III. And one thing to remember is that all wars are bankers' wars. Bankers' wars are very profitable in the lining up of their pockets. But upon that final third world war, at the least of the flock, small hatters shall bring forth, that will be the end of Edom's reign upon this earth. That third world war of destruction that will eventually come, will end all Edomite rulership on earth. But when it comes to the scripture of surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, that is also found upon the scripture of Jeremiah 50 and verse 45. Let's also go over to that scripture. But it shall be those small hatters that shall draw out the Americans to their final doom. Jeremiah 50 and verse 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. Right, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out is in reference to the small hats drawing out the Americans to that final war of utter destruction. Right, because that war is going to utilize those arrows of mass destruction. And they shall level modern day Babylon the Great from coast to coast. And modern day Babylon the Great in these times speaks of America. The so-called Israeli state will be the ones to draw out the Americans to that final and destructive third world war. And if Iran is to get attacked, Russia steps in. And if Israel gets attacked, America steps in. The least of the flock shall draw them out. You see? This is all biblical prophecy. And what's happened with Iran now is leading up to this point. The Lord is a man of war, according to Exodus 15 and 3. And it is he that controls these wars. The Lord is a man of war, and therefore he has covered all angles. World War III is inevitable. That shall certainly take place as soon as they implement that CHIP of Revelation 13, 16 through 18. But it's just as the scripture has said. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Right, they shall draw out the Americans to war. And it is destined for Russia to lock horns with America. That prophecy is inevitable. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. That land that the small has now inhabited and occupied shall be destroyed in that besom of destruction, along with modern day Babylon the Great, which is America. The only difference is that modern day Babylon the Great shall never rebuild, but the land that the small hats now inhabit shall definitely rebuild to later welcome in the true people of the Lord Yahweh Wa Yahushai. And the scripture of Isaiah 14:1 has said, for the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And those strangers speak of Israelite foreigners. This is a near future prophecy that the Holy Scriptures have foretold since the very beginning. All that is occurring in the Mideast is in the fulfillment of prophecy. It's leading to that final showdown of that Third World War. Is leading to that final showdown of World War III. This is a near future prophecy that the Holy Scriptures have foretold since the very beginning. And all that is occurring in the Mideast is in the fulfillment of prophecy. It's leading to that final showdown of Armageddon. To that final showdown of World War III. With that being said, Kaulalal Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to the elders of Jemas Ruel, blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Prakta. Shalom.